But in this episode here, what I want to do is I want to give you a really high-level roadmap that'll be really valuable for you. Let me introduce you to what I call the 3 time zones. Now, one of the biggest reasons that chiropractors feel maxed out and stuck is they're spending nearly all of their time in one zone and they're ignoring the other 2 completely. Now, when these 3 time zones are out of balance, the result is always predictable. You're going to end up feeling exhausted, stuck, and eventually you're going to end up feeling resentful. CEO time is not about you being a better adjuster. Let me be clear, it's important that you be a world-class adjuster. CEO time is about you being a better leader. Now, both are important, but they require a different focus, different energy, and different boundaries. So when you block out your CEO time, I want you to ask, is this activity improving the practice or is it just improving me? Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, folks. Hey, welcome to another episode of the Marketing Your Practice podcast, the podcast where I have the pleasure of simplifying the marketing and the mindset so you, the chiropractor, can increase your income, your impact, and your enjoyment in practice too. Now, welcome back to another episode of the Chiropractic CEO Code. This is a special series. We're unpacking what it really takes to step into the leadership role that your practice and your life needs you to be playing. Now, in episode 1, I introduced you to the big core idea behind this series, and that is your practice will only grow as far as you're willing to grow as a leader. We also spent some time talking through the 3 ways chiropractors typically lead. I talked about technician mode. This is where you're doing it all yourself. Manager mode, this is where you're constantly chasing the chaos. And remember, often in manager mode, we feel like we're being the actual leader and the CEO, but we're not. And then finally, it's CEO mode. Okay, now this is where you're building something that can grow without you burning out. Now, again, just a note here. Even as a CEO, you can play all of these roles. It doesn't mean that you have to move yourself out of the practice. I speak to some chiropractors and they tell me, Angus, I don't want to stop working. I love adjusting my practice members. I love doing all of those things. Being the CEO and being the leader is going to make it easier for you to care for your patients, okay? It's a win-win. They're not mutually exclusive. So now the question becomes this: how do we shift into that CEO role practically, okay? And the answer is, you do this by starting to master your time, because here's the truth. If you don't control your time, your practice is going to control it for you, your patients, the world around you as well. Now, this topic is something that I go much, much deeper inside of Community Influence. So we spend time building out custom plans, applying my full CEO time formula and running the weekly systems inside of it. But in this episode here, what I want to do is I want to give you a really high-level roadmap that'll be really valuable for you, a way of thinking about your time that can create some immediate space, breathing space, some momentum without overhauling your entire life as well, okay? So here's what we're going to cover. Why most chiropractors feel maxed out, but are actually spending too much time on the wrong things there as well. We'll talk about the 3 time zones every chiropractor needs to manage. The first time habit I recommend starting with and how to make it stick there as well. And a simple question to help you kind of identify the biggest time leaks that you have as well. Now, just a note here, this isn't about time management. What I'm talking about here is leadership, okay? This is really the first goal or first skill of a CEO is leadership as well. Now, one of the biggest reasons that chiropractors feel maxed out and stuck is they're spending nearly all of their time in one zone and they're ignoring the other 2 completely, okay? So let me introduce you to what I call the 3 time zones. The first is patient zone, okay, or patient time, okay? This is zone 1. This is where most of us tend to live by default. It's booked, it's structured, it's part of your week. And it tends to happen whether you plan it or not. Our CAs are often in charge of all of this. And for most chiropractors, this is where we feel most confident, okay? It's where the magic happens. It's where we're hands-on. It's heart-centered care there as well. But here's the catch. Patient time doesn't grow your practice, okay? It maintains it at best. And if all you do is adjust and to react to what's right in front of you, okay, you'll end up feeling stuck because you're stuck in the present, okay? The second zone is CEO time, okay? Now, this is where growth happens. It's time that you spend working on your business. This means reviewing your marketing, planning team meetings, refining systems, creating training, or setting the vision and projects for the next 6 weeks and beyond. This is the time that you build your machine. This is not time that you're running on the treadmill. Now, nobody books this for you. There's no alert. No one's chasing you to do it. So unless you actively protect it, okay, it tends to disappear, and it's not going to happen just by default. The third zone, or zone 3, is personal time. And this one's really easy for us to neglect also, especially for those of us that are really wired to serve or in the early phases of growth of our practice. But the truth is this: your practice exists to support your life, not the other way around. Remember, in our practice, what we want is impact, meaning, income, revenue, and freedom, okay? So if there's no freedom for us to be able to live the life that we want to live, then what's the point of it? So personal time includes rest and exercise and family time and hobbies. It's space and time to recharge. It's where you rebuild your energy. It's resetting your nervous system. It reminds you of who you need to be outside of the adjusting room. We cannot show up to work unless our cup is full. Now, the chiropractors who last and the one who thrive schedule personal time like it's a priority, not an afterthought, okay? This needs to go in your diary and be an appointment like anything else. Now, when these 3 time zones are out of balance, the result is always predictable. You're going to end up feeling exhausted, stuck, and eventually you're going to end up feeling resentful, okay? But when you start intentionally planning all 3 of these, even just one small move each week, you can notice a shift in how you feel in practice almost immediately, okay? Now, I like to think of it a little bit like this. Some chiropractors I refer to as fighters. They show up every day, they're swinging hard, they're adjusting, they're reacting, they're juggling, they're in the arena, okay? They're doing everything they can to keep the practice running. And others are architects, okay? They step back, they look at the blueprint, they build systems, they support growth, they protect time to plan, reflect, and lead. Now, you can be both, and especially in the early stages of practice. In fact, in the beginning, it's almost inevitable that you'll have to wear that hat. Sometimes you'll be fighting it in the arena, sometimes you'll be the fighter, and sometimes you'll be the architect, okay? But if you stay in that fighter mode forever, growth is eventually going to hit a ceiling. Burnout sets in, resentment sets in, and the business becomes a job that owns you as opposed to the other way around, okay? Now, you can't fight your way towards freedom. This means you need to become the architect. This is another way of thinking of the CEO. At some point, you have to build your way out of there. Now, this is something that Jeff Bezos figured out in the early days of Amazon. At first, he did everything, okay? He answered customer service emails. He even packed boxes, he fixed bugs on the website, he was doing everything. But Amazon didn't scale because Bezos kept on grinding harder and harder and harder. It scaled because he shifted. He stepped into the CEO role. He began protecting his time for strategy. He began protecting his time for leadership, okay? This is where we need to move to, okay? Now, here's a lesson. What got you here, the hustle, the heart, the hands-on care, is not going to get you to where you need to be next. You need space to think. You need time to plan, and you need the courage to lead as well, okay? And this starts by you managing all 3 time zones, okay? Patient time, CEO time, and personal time. So where do you start with all of this? If you're juggling a full patient load, family commitments, there's probably hundreds of moving pieces. How do you begin to step into this idea of leading like a CEO, okay? Now, the idea is, or my suggestion is you just start small. You start simple. You start with a habit that I call the Sunday CEO reset. Now, don't worry, it doesn't have to be Sunday. It can be Monday morning. In fact, you could even do it on a Friday to finish off your week, whatever works for you. And you might have to have a play to see what time works best. What works best for me is I run this on a Monday morning. I used to do it on a Sunday and it just didn't feel good for me to be doing it then, so Monday morning. But if you're with practice members on a Monday morning, you'll start early, you need to find a time that works for you. The key is, before your week begins, you need to take just 30 minutes to decide what matters most. Now, I think this 30 minutes may be the most valuable 30 minutes of your entire week, but that's it, just 30 minutes. Most chiropractors are rolling into the week on autopilot. You end up opening up the computer, you're immediately diving into emails, there's patient notes, there's staff questions. But if you don't choose your priorities before the week starts, the week is going to choose them for you, and it'll never give you the revenue, the impact, and the freedom that you ultimately want from your practice. So here's what I recommend when we're thinking about this Sunday night CEO reset. There are 3 parts to it, okay? The first is to review the week ahead. Remember, this is 30 minutes. So part number 1 is about 10 minutes. You want to look at your calendar and look at what's already scheduled. Are there any conflicts or overbooked days? Have you forgotten something? Is there something you need to reschedule? What's already in there? What are the non-negotiables? Now, non-negotiables are the fixed points in your week. They're the commitments that you can't move or ones that you shouldn't move. Some examples might be, they're your adjusting schedule. This is already kind of booked in patient hours. Perhaps it's a team meeting or a performance review, a speaking engagement at a community event. It could and should be things like family commitments. It's a partner's birthday, it's school pickup, it's dinner nights, it's health appointments, it's travel plans, self-care that's critical for you. It might be a therapy session, it might be training or a scheduled recovery day as well. These are all examples of non-negotiables that should be in your calendar, okay? Written down there as well, blocked out, okay? That way they have that same level of importance as any other appointment would have. So that's part 1 that you do. The second thing you need to do is block out time for CEO and personal time. This should take no more than 5 to 10 minutes. Now, again, I want you to start with just one 45-minute CEO time block. Book one personal time block as well. And plan your time in there. Again, man, if you don't plan for your personal time, maybe it's a massage, it's a dinner with your partner, a walk, something like that. But get these into your diary and treat these like your patient appointments. They're non-negotiable. They don't move there as well. Okay, so that's the second phase. The third thing that you need to do is choose what are your top priorities. Okay, and again, this should take no more than 10 to 15 minutes. Ask yourself this question. What 3 things, if I completed them this week, would make the biggest difference? Okay, now be really specific here. You don't want to say in that 45 minutes at Tuesday lunchtime, I'm going to work on my marketing, because it's too vague. You want to be specific here and say, I'm going to shoot 2 videos. I'm going to write a blog post. I'm going to read this book here as well. So what is it that you're going to do exactly? What would done look like? Now, the more specific you are about what exactly you're going to do at that time, the easier it'll be for you to begin, okay? Now, one of the most common questions I get, though, when people start blocking out this CEO time is, what do I actually do during these time blocks? Now, it's a great question. And there's a simple rule of thumb. Your CEO time should focus on the 5 areas that I introduced you to in the last episode. Remember, with us as a CEO, we said that we are accountable to vision and direction, marketing and visibility, financial health, team and culture, and system and processes. Okay. So if the activity you're planning fits into one of these 5 categories, it qualifies as CEO time. In fact, let me just go through those 5 categories again. Vision and direction, marketing and visibility, financial health, team and culture, system and processes, okay? So if that 45 minutes, if you're doing anything from those 5 categories, that's CEO time. Now, in coming episodes, I'm going to go into a lot more detail on each of those 5 categories and help you with some ideas in terms of what you should know, baselines as well. But here's some examples, okay? It could be reviewing your new patient numbers and identifying where they're coming from. Maybe it's mapping out your next quarter's goals or projects. It could be creating or refining a team onboarding process. Maybe it's writing an agenda and planning outcomes for your next staff meeting. It could be meeting with your accountant, okay, to understand what your break-even point and your cash flow is. It might be brainstorming content for your next video series or community workshop. Or it could be just updating your core systems. For example, maybe documenting your new patient and your reactivating processes, okay? These are all high leverage activities and they move your practice forwards. They're going to improve clarity. They're going to reduce future workload and they're going to make your practice stronger without requiring more work for you, okay? Now, this is where I see a lot of chiropractors go wrong on this. I was chatting with a chiropractor recently, a client inside a community influencer, and he was telling me that in his CEO time, he set aside 2 hours this week to watch an adjusting seminar and brush up on his chiropractic philosophy and technique, okay? Now, let me be clear. these are great uses of your time. And as I said, in his case, great uses of his time. Ongoing clinical education matters. Passion for your craft matters. But this is not CEO time. That's technician time. This is about improving you as a provider, as a chiropractor, not building the practice as a business. So we get mixed up and muddled in these, okay? And when you blur those lines, you end up tricking yourself into thinking that you're leading when actually what you're doing is just upgrading yourself as a technician. CEO time is not about you being a better adjuster. Now, let me be clear. It's important that you be a world-class adjuster, okay? CEO time is about you being a better leader. Now, both are important, but they require a different focus, different energy, and different boundaries. So when you block out your CEO time, I want you to ask, is this activity improving the practice or is it just improving me? Choose one clear strategic action from any of the 5 categories I spoke about before, and you need to protect it like it matters, because it does, okay? All right, let's land this episode. The fastest way for you to shift from being stuck in practice to leading above it is to take control back of your time. Not by doing more, but by protecting the time that matters most. Now, this week, I want you to start really simple. I want you to schedule a Sunday CEO reset. Start with Sunday first of all, just 30 minutes. Review the week ahead. Block out just one 45-minute CEO time slot. Identify 3 clear priorities for the week. And when you block out that CEO time, make sure it's focused on one of the 5 key areas, whether it's vision, marketing, finances, team, or systems, okay? Now, even just 1 week of doing this will feel different. I promise you, it doesn't take long to get momentum with this. You'll feel more grounded, you'll feel less reactive, and you'll feel more like the leader that your practice actually needs. And this is attractive. Watch what happens. Even when you're not working on the marketing, when you're stepping up as a leader, it becomes more attractive to the people in your community as well. Now, in next week's episode, we're going to dive into the first core responsibility for every chiropractic CEO, and that is vision and direction, okay? You'll learn why most chiropractors skip this step and the one mistake that leads to stalled growth, staff confusion, and inconsistent marketing, okay? I'll walk you through a simple framework that'll help you clarify your direction and start building the practice that you actually want, not just the one that you've inherited by default there. Now, folks, that's it for today. Thanks again for all that you do. Keep saving lives, and I look forward to seeing you back here next week. Bye. If you've enjoyed listening to this podcast, you have to come and check out my Community Influencer Program. It's my monthly coaching program where we take all this material and I'll work with you to help you apply it, implement it, and systemize it. The Community Influencer Group Coaching Program is designed to help you increase your practice income, impact, and enjoyment. Join me over at anguspyke.com/join. That's anguspyke.com/join. I'd love to see you there.